Welcome to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nodelman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And that sound of the gong means that it is time once again for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I'm Mike Nodelman.
Aaron Berk.
A quick background to our podcast. I work for Aaron as a U.S. numismatist in his family's coin store in Chicago, but I've always wanted to learn more about coins. So since I have two of the foremost authorities on ancient coins in the United States right upstairs at work, I decided to ask Aaron if he'd teach me about ancient coins. And so these podcasts are kind of so you can help learn with me. So on today's episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast, beware the Ides of March. In our educational segment, we'll learn about the Brutus Eid Mar, number 1 in the book, Top 100 Greatest Ancient Coins. Man, that was a mouthful. And we'll gain yet another pearl for our Necklace of Wisdom from Aaron. We'll look at another doofus purchase, but before we do all that, Aaron is going to take us through some auction highlights from the big sales over the past 2 weeks. So Aaron, what was it that really grabbed attention of buyers this week?
So Roma was actually this past Thursday and Friday, and not going to really, little synopsis of it. It was prices were strong in general, but everybody's kind of waiting for the NAC auction to be coming up the end of May, and they haven't even come out with the catalog yet, but it's coming soon. But I'm going to talk about the Kunker sale. That's actually happening April 4th through the 6th. And that will be, so that's going to be this coming a week from Monday. Actually.
April 4th.
April 4th. That's right. So, and they're kind of, they have 3 auction catalogs. So for one for each day, obviously. It's there's, if you like Greek, the Greek is either on April 4th or April 6th, depending on, they had one collection and, so it just depends on where your coins fall, I should say. I want to talk about 4 coins in particular that I thought were interesting to talk about. The first one is lot 5059. That is the Syracuse tetradrachm. And I think Mike's going to bring up a video of it.
Okay, so that's this one. And there we see it. It is in gloved hands. The obverse, very strong, really nice strike, centered well.
What's really interesting about this, you see how it's kind of raised on the Arethusa side? It almost kind of looks like it's kind of like a circle in there.
Let's go back.
On the obverse side.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the Syracusan coins from this period, there's a twist in the metal. Actually, and a lot of times you can see it on the edge of the coin. Years ago, I went to the British Museum, and we went you can actually get into their back rooms to view coins. You have to make, I believe it takes at least a month notice, but you can literally get into the back rooms and then request to see specific coins from their collection. We looked through all the coins of Syracuse at the time, and we were specifically looking for these twists in the coin die, or in the planchet, I should say.
And I'm pointing them out on the video.
Yeah. So here it's interesting because you can actually see it on the top of the coin. This die in particular is extremely desirable because this shows Arethusa under the water. You see how her hair is kind of flowing?
Yeah, it's kind of going up.
Right. Exactly. And so this is a very sought after die. There's tons of dies of Syracuse. This one struck between 405 and 395 BC. But this particular die is one of the most popular dies. And sometimes not impossible to pick up. They do come up. This one I wouldn't say is the highest grade. They can run anywhere. They're usually over $10,000 in general. I would expect this one to bring between 12 and 15,000. High grade ones can bring over $20,000.
Now let me show off what little I've picked up so far. So this would be graded as fine style.
I would say it's more VF than
More
fine
VF
style.
than fine style. Okay. The quadriga on the back is really, really sharp. Everything on it is really nicely centered. This coin is just, it's a really desirable specimen.
Yeah, it's desirable for the type. It's not the highest quality for this type of coin, but it has all the attributes that you like to see, especially on the Arethusa side with the flowing hair, with her under the water with the dolphins. So it's definitely worth noting because these are the type of tetradrams that most people who collect these want.
And interesting to note that the twist is on the obverse and not the reverse.
It's usually on the edge of the coin, so to actually see it on the obverse is quite interesting, I thought.
What do you think caused that? Or was it done by design?
There's some debate on how these were created, whether it was a corkscrew type of strike, where as they were striking it, the dies were actually twisting so that they would get a high relief, or some other form. I'm sure that people have their own reasonings on why they did it. I remember, I actually went with my sister and Wolfgang Fischer-Bosser to the British Museum when we went, and he was saying, oh, keep that part secret because we don't want the counterfeiters to know about the twisting that we know about it.
Sure.
So but it's typically you'll see them on the edges. You'll see that there's almost like a tang sometimes on the edge of the coin. And these are some of the things we look at when we're, authenticating ancient coins.
Well, you can see from the circular nature of that twist that it really does kind of, in my imagination, lend itself to a screw or a screw press.
Well, and a lot of these coins are really need to be struck up. So to get it from not being double struck, a corkscrew type of system might help it get that high strike without double striking.
Sure.
Because you'll get a lot of ghosting when you hit the mallet.
As soon as you hit it a second time, yeah. But if you
the die is just going to shift. And so if it's in some kind of corkscrew scenario, it's just tightening up and actually bringing it further. And I'm sure somebody will say, "Oh, that's not how they did it." But I think it's all up to interpretation.
Sure, and with a screw press in general, it's like just send the mule around one more time, right? That's kind of where you get it.
Exactly. So moving on, the next one is going to be lot 5070. I love this type of coin. This is actually minted under the Punic Sicilian period between 264 and 241 BC. So this is during the First Punic Wars, which were between 264 and 241 BC, when they were trying to take control of Sicily at the time. And so before this, when the Carthaginians had control of this region, they were using the standard weights of Sicily. But here they were actually using the shekel weight. And so this is a decadram or 5 shekels. Weighs about 37 grams, somewhere in that region.
Wow.
And what you have is it's a big coin. I don't know why this wasn't 100 greatest, because I think it should be. But there's so many coins that could be 100 greatest. You can't have them all, I guess.
Yeah, this coin doesn't look quite as beefy in the video. I mean, now that you say that, that means that this coin is probably closer to the size of a $50.
Right.
And it's
a little
really
flatter.
thick.
It's not like your typical Sicilian decadrams. It's not as heavy as well. It's a little bit lighter. And what you have here is you have Tanit, who is a Carthage goddess on the obverse, and you have Pegasus on the reverse. And underneath, you'll see that there's actual Punic legend that is, it's going to probably mean in the land or in the territories. And this is just to suggest the effort by Carthage to stake its claim as a rightful occupant of Sicily over the Romans. So this is during this war period that's going on. So it has, I just think it's one of the most popular coins. If you collect Greek coins and you're going for an expensive typeset, this coin is tough to get. They're often scratched up, so it's very difficult to get a nice one. It's going to bring big money, I'm sure.
I can see where this type of coin would have a lot of cross appeal, across different genres, and where, it may appeal to more than one type of collector.
Exactly. So moving on, 5253. It's one of the most famous coins, one of the most famous sesterces. This one by Nero. And this shows the port of Ostia on the reverse of the coin. And those of you who collect architectural types or boating scenes, this is up there as one of the most important coins you can actually acquire. I'm almost positive this is a 100 greatest coin as well. But what you have on the reverse here is you have Ostia, which literally meant mouth. So it's the mouth of the opening of where the Tiber River came into Italy here. And this was a port going all the way back to the 7th century BC. But there was a lot of sandbars. And so they literally would bring big ships in and then have to cart them with small boats because they couldn't get the ships in. And then both Julius Caesar and Augustus wanted to, refurbish the harbor so that so big ships could come in. And it was around the time of Claudius that they started to renovate the port, and they finished with Nero. So in around 64 AD, they finished the port of Ostia and all the building that was done to it. And Nero came out with this sestertius as a remembrance for this day and it was a great thing for Nero of all people to produce this coin, because Nero is kind of a crazy figure. But if you look at the coin, at the top, besides all the ships in the center, at the top there's a statue of Neptune that was overseeing the port, and at the bottom you have the god Tiber. And so both of these gods are overseen. And then you have you look just above where Tiber is at the bottom, you'll see a little tiny ship. That ship was just to basically shuttle around people as well. But later on, the marble was used actually after obviously 1,000 years or more later. The marble was taken down from Ostia and was reused in the cathedrals of Pisa. They actually built the Tower of Pisa with the marble from Ostia, as well as some other important buildings. And so you have to remember, it's interesting to see how ancient structures were reused. If you talk, one day I'll do a talk on antiquities, but the Egyptians had very little wood. And so they would reuse wood like crazy. And in fact, you would see Egyptian wood coffins called sarcophaguses or sarcophagi that were actually reused from different pieces of wood. They actually pegged them together. And so, I'm just making a note here is that something so beautiful that the port of Ostia must have been at some point got run down, and then they just stripped it of all of its parts and pieces and built other things that became iconic.
And thinking of the time when this happened, it had to be quite an engineering marvel as well.
Oh, huge. And cost a fortune. And it took several emperors for it to get completed. So
Well, but
it's not like
this is
got
Nero
finished
bragging
overnight.
on it as well.
Exactly. Exactly. So the last coin I want to talk about is the Marina Stater. That's slot 7119. I just like this one just because I don't know. It's so cute.
Do you like
And
the dog?
well, so normally these just have the prancing horse. Now, like most coins, we've talked about this. The iconography of the coinage has to do with who is issuing the coin because this is their propaganda, right? So, of course, at this city in Thrace, they actually raised horses, and they were one of the biggest producers of wine. So, of course, you have a horse on one side, and you have grapevines on the reverse. And so, this is basically talking about what was being done in this region, and you know that their coins come from here, and you know, and they're proud of their heritage and what they do, so they put it on their coins. What's unusual about this one is that you know it comes up occasionally is that you've got this little dog that's underneath the horse. A lot of this issue comes without the dog, and so I thought that was interesting. If you're into animals and you like dogs and horses, this is the coin and wine. This
Oh
coin
yeah.
is for you.
Yeah, this is a strange cross section. However, it does have wide appeal.
It certainly does. It certainly does. So anyway, that's coming up. Like I said, April 4th through the 6th. So moving on to our doofus purchase, I always have to kind of look a bit. And what I thought was interesting about this, and I'm not picking on great collections at all. You know, I don't have a problem with anybody trying to make a profit, especially if they do it through auctions. I'm not even complaining that these are in slabs. What I'm complaining about here is that if you look at the individual coins, and it might be hard from your perspective, Mike, but most of these coins are either bronze or they're provincial tetradrachms. So they're not official coins struck by the empire. They're in the provinces, and in most cases, they're not good quality coins, very low quality coins. The fact that maybe they're in slabs, somebody paid a premium for that. Now, I always say that if you want to build a 12 Caesar set and you don't have money for gold or official silver imperial coins, then doing it through provincial means, provincial coinage and through bronze is the way to go. But you can do this raw. You don't need them in slabs. And you're basically paying a huge premium. This one for $9,600 plus, you know, their buyer's free was only 12.5%. But you know, you're talking $10,000 for a collection that's worth maybe $2,400 total. So maybe $3,000 you could build this yourself, and it's not hard to build. Not hard to build at all. So why would you pay 3 times what the coins are worth just because somebody did the work for you and then they put them in holders? It's dumb. It's a dumb purchase.
So your issue with this is really more to do with where they're starting it, as far as $9,600. I mean,
I guess my
that seems to
problem
be.
is that anybody could have built this within probably 6 months. It wouldn't have been hard. If you're just putting together coins and you don't care about the quality and you're just grabbing names and whatever you can find, then why would you pay somebody 3 times to do the work for you? It wouldn't take that long to do this. So to me, it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's why it's a doofus for me.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just one of those. I don't particularly care too much for pre-made sets. I think in general they defeat the purpose of collecting coins in that, you know, the whole point is that you can go out there and you can learn something, and then you see, you know, how difficult they are to find, and you know there's the thrill of the hunt and all that, and this has none of that. And yet
No.
it isn't even one of those sets where you're like, well, I mean, I couldn't have gotten to this quality. No, they're very average, and they're so yeah. No, I'm with
Well,
you on that one.
they're saying it's NGC find AU. Okay, well the finds are going to be the rare coins, like going to be Caesar, Caligula.
Yeah,
You know, those are the types of, you know, the harder ones to get. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be lower quality. But they're mixing silver and bronze. It's when you're basically saying I just want a name, and you're not even caring what the quality is. Now, look, if somebody, I don't suggest anybody putting together a set, buying a pre-made set when you can do it yourself. But if you bought a collection that had a set in it, or somebody did a set that's very difficult to do, and you went to auction and you bought it for a premium, I'm not totally against it if the set is worthy of paying a ridiculous price.
Okay. I mean, my thing is that if if you just don't care, why are you bothering? I mean, it just seems to me.
Well, to me, this isn't collecting.
Yeah.
So
this just isn't. This isn't a milestone in anybody's.
Right.
It's just not. It's, you kind of look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, that's a check it off the list.
Look, if I can put together, if I put together 10 sets like this that cost me $2,400 a piece to put together, and I just line them up, and then I find somebody to pay me $10,000, I'm making a pretty damn good profit to do the work for them.
Yes.
And to me, somebody who's buying this set is somebody who's very lazy about how they're collecting.
Okay, well, here, wait a minute.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and before it sounds like, because I mean, it does sound like we're bashing on Greg, and we're not. We're kind of we're just talking about what it is that you're buying. So one of the things that I like about working at Harlan Berk is that I think about this from the standpoint of, okay, so you've put this collection together, you've sold it to somebody. Now the question is do you want it back?
Right. There's no resale value on this collection. They're going to say, okay, we'll put it back out at starting at $3,000 and see what happens. And hopefully you get two other fools that buy it. And maybe through auction, you can do that. Now, if you bought a set like this from a dealer and they would say priced it at $9,500, call them back in a year and see if they want to buy it. I guarantee you they won't.
Right. And
if they do, it's going to be at a fraction of what you paid. And
that to me is important. It really is. You want to place coins with collectors that you want to have back in stock.
Right. Yeah. If you're just churning and burning clients, and that's your business model.
Well, I mean, look, there are plenty out there that do that. Just not a good long-term strategy, if you ask me.
Right. I mean, that's why we're doing this show, right?
Right.
Like if I put together sets like this and just sold them to collectors and made 3 times my money on every sale, yeah, I'd be happy running in the bank,
Right.
But it'd be hard to look at myself in the mirror the next day.
And you'd be looking for new customers all the time.
All the time.
Right.
All the time. And, as soon as there's no resale value on what you're selling, then you're just telemarketing.
Now, see, that should be your pearl of wisdom. It's not, but it should be. I'm just saying. That's
the truth. When there's not a secondary market for anything that you're selling, like people who buy moderns with these 70 grades in US, there's no secondary market for that stuff. I mean, there is and there isn't.
Right.
I mean, if you're a seller,
it depends on how common it is.
What's that?
It depends on how common it is.
Okay.
If it's common, then it's just a widget. But if
you have to throw a dart to hope to get a 70,
right?
Yeah. And there's no reason or why it's a 70. To me, there's that.
If larger than 10% of the mintage is a 70, then
right. I mean, Mike in our office, he used to work for
Larry Whitlow.
Larry Whitlow, who got into moderns, and Mike hated it. And Larry would tell customers, "I don't buy them, I make them."
Okay. Yeah. No, that was him sending them in, and yeah. He
made 70s. He didn't buy them.
I don't want to purchase them. I send them in, and I get them because I'm smart enough to know what'll make it.
Well, no, because Mike was actually the one who was.
I know. I'm just saying, but that's what he's
Mike
claiming.
Said it was just a guess.
It's a crapshoot.
Completely.
It is a total crapshoot.
Completely. I mean, that's a whole different. avenue on the Slavic.
It's something you don't have to worry about in the ancient coin world. You don't have to worry about 70s.
No, you don't. Yet.
That's a
I
good
would
thing.
be surprised if they get there.
Well, look. Okay.
Who knows? Who knows? So, so I guess let's get to our educational section.
Okay.
And want to talk about. So we're in March. It is the Ides of March. We were going to do this show a few weeks ago when it was the same week as the Ides of March, but we had some technical difficulties, and then I had the audacity to go on vacation.
Shame on you.
And so yeah, exactly. So still wanted to talk about the Eid Mar. It is the most iconic coin in ancient coins. Yes, most people cannot afford it, but if you're a lover of numismatics, there's no reason why you can't appreciate them. Because even most dealers can't afford to actually handle them. So luckily, my dad and I have handled many of them, and that's a testament to my father and our business and our longevity in the industry.
And the clientele
and so I thought
that you
I'd
built.
just go through and discuss some of these because there's ones that are actually coming up soon. So in the 100 Greatest, the first edition, my father put the Eid Mar on the book cover. The second edition has the Alexander the Great.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular coin that's actually on the cover, my father actually bought for the Boston Museum of Art. He actually represented them in the 90s and bought this coin for, I believe it was like 120,000 Swiss francs.
Now, is this the gold one?
This is a silver one.
This is the silver one on the cover. Okay.
So what you have to realize, now just talk about the history about these a little bit. Brutus, who was one of the assassinators of Julius Caesar, after the assassination on the Ides of March, March 15th, Brutus then created these coins during the wars, the civil wars, the wars that they were fighting for control at the time. And he actually put his portrait on the obverse of the coin. And if we go to the next slide, Mike, this is the gold Eid Mar. I'll give you a little history about it in a second. But you have to understand, one of the reasons why Julius Caesar got assassinated was because he was doing things that had never been done by an individual. He was making himself Caesar for life. He was doing all these things that were going to keep him in power forever. And he put his portrait on a coin, which no one had done during the Roman period. When you had the Roman Republic, there was no emperors on the coins during that time period. So when Julius Caesar did it, it was a big deal. And then here, Caesar, Brutus and the assassinators, they killed Caesar. And what does Brutus do? He turns around and he puts his portrait on the coin.
Right.
So on the obverse of the coin is Brutus, and on the reverse you have the Liberty Cap, which represents the Roman people. You have the daggers, and so the daggers are freeing.
Rome,
the Roman people from Caesar's wrath or rule on the Ides of March.
Right. So Rome was liberated by daggers on the Ides of March.
Right. So there was this gold. There's only 3 gold Eid Mars in existence. There's about 80 silver Eid Mars, official Eid Mars. I'll talk about the forays in a second. But there's about 80 of them known in silver and 3 in gold. There's one in the British Museum. There's one, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes, that has a hole in it. And there was this one. This one came up in Roma auction in England in October of 2020. And this one actually brought 2.7 million pounds plus the buyer's fee. So it was around $4.2 million.
Wow.
And up until this coin came up, there was a coin of Pantikapan facing portrait, which will probably actually come up this year. Again, it was bought by the Sheikh in 2012 for about 3.2 million, something like that.
Quick question.
Sorry, what's that?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are the gold ones the same size as the silver ones?
Yeah.
So they were struck with the same dies?
Yeah, I believe they were actually. I mean, there's many different dies for the type, but they were struck with the same dies. Yes.
That's unusual for a gold and a silver coin to be struck with the same dies.
You know, it was mainly because there was war going on, and he was paying his soldiers with these, right? And so they didn't have time to cut a ton of dies. So I don't know how many dies exist. There's a work by Khan in the, I believe, 80s or 90s. It's just a small pamphlet that has all the Eid Mars in it. And actually has the whole Eid Mar. It doesn't have this gold Eid Mar in there because this one supposedly came from an Austrian aristocrat, but I don't know if that's true or not. Hard to say. But anyway, this ended up breaking the record for the most expensive ancient coin. The Pantikapan that brought 3.2 in 2012 broke the record for the most expensive ancient coin ever to sell. And then this coin broke that record. And yeah, exciting coin. So if we go on to the next one, in my opinion, this coin is the finest silver Eid Mar ever to sell, quality-wise. A lot of them are a little bit off-center here and there, especially seems to be more on the reverse of the coin. But this is just a tremendous quality coin. This one sold in 2016 by MAC. And it brought 400,000 Swiss francs plus whatever their buyer's fee was in 2016.
Yeah, the fields on this are exceptionally clean.
Yeah, very nice coin. If you go to the next coin, this is one of the most famous coins for Eid Mar because this was actually owned by the Hunt brothers. Yes, the Ketchup Hunt brothers. Actually had a massive collection of coins. But this had a pedigree going all the way back to Ars Classica 1930. And actually, my father and our company own this coin. And just to give you an idea of what the market was like when we owned it, we bought it for $100,000. We held it for an entire year and couldn't sell it.
Wow. Now, was it because of the condition of the coin?
That's the coin.
No. But I mean, do you attribute the trouble that you had selling it within that year to the condition of it?
No, the market was just crap.
Okay.
The market was not strong then. We ended up selling it to a guy named Bellsberg for 112,000. So we made 12 grand on it a year later. And then I don't remember if Bellsberg sold it or somebody else sold it. I think Bellsberg sold it in auction through NAC maybe or somebody like that. But it ended up selling at the Heritage auction in 2011 for $475,000, which was back then, you gotta understand, in 2011, we were still, during the 2008 recession, ancient coins were not doing so well. And so it still hadn't done that well. And sorry, my cat is being a pain.
Nobody would know.
She literally just pulled my mic. Anyway. So that was a huge price tag. These days, it's not that strong. I mean, these coins are bringing close, between 400 and 350 and $500,000. But in 2011, that was a really strong price. And just we had it for a year and couldn't sell it at 100,000. We would love to have that coin at 100,000 now.
Because of the low number of surviving examples of this, would you think that this is probably one of the lowest graded?
Oh, the next one? Yeah.
Oh, I'm on that one. I'm sorry. I thought we were on that one.
No, I was still on the Hunt specimen.
This is the Hunt specimen. Sorry.
Yeah. Now move to the next one.
Well, let's look at the hunt specimen for just a second.
Mike.
Yeah, tactical.
Okay. So anyway, this is the coin that we had. This is the coin that we sold that ended up bringing 475,000. So if we move on to the next slide,
Okay.
this is how worn they can get. And you'll get counter marks on them, banker's marks on them. They'll still bring strong money. This sold in 2010 by C&G for 37,500.
Well, I mean, they
So
still
even
are what they
then-
are.
What's that?
They are what they are.
They are what they are. And so even in low grade, these sell for crazy prices. And in 2010, the prices weren't that strong. And so this was still a very strong price. Today, that's worth, probably 125,000 or more.
Now, I think it's fair to say, though, that this coin, in particular, the Eid Mar, has a cachet that is probably unequaled by others.
Yes.
Because Shakespeare wrote the play Julius Caesar, and it's basically about the Ides of March and about the assassination of Caesar. And so, anybody that's been through high school in America basically has learned the history of this coin. And so I think that just kind of broadens the audience.
Right.
That was it.
I'm putting water.
Just a
I'm
thought.
spraying water on my cat right now because she's being a pain. I'm giving her water torture. So
No waterboarding the cat.
So if we go on to the next coin, this is actually what we call a foray. So these were ancient counterfeits. So if you look, you can see the copper core starting to come through on the obverse.
Yeah, there's
See
a
that
little chip,
spot?
little chip.
Little chip, right? So it is now believed, yes, there were ancient forgers that were making these coins. So they were taking copper cores with silver washes. There's forays of every type of coin in existence practically that were done in full silver. They were actually trying to obviously trick somebody into thinking that they had a full silver coin, even in ancient times. So this is an ancient coin. But it is now believed that Brutus was stretching his silver and paying his soldiers in forays. That these were actually, some of these were done with official dies.
So Brutus was really, really doing dirty.
Well, yeah, sure.
I mean, it's like he killed the guy for putting his visage on a coin. Then he puts his image on a coin, and then he starts defacing the coinage.
Right.
What
And, I'm
jerk.
sure there are some forays that weren't official dies. For sure there are. But, it is definitely believed that, these were done with, some of these were done with official dies, which means that Brutus or people who are
some money
controlling his minting
yeah,
were actually doing this.
they were done officially.
Right. So, Mike, if we go to the next one. Okay, so this is the whole gold Eid Mar I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
My father actually bought this coin for a client, going all the way back to probably 97, 98. No, I'm sorry. We bought it in 2004. That's right. Okay. So we bought it for Barry Fairstein. Barry Fairstein was a client of ours at the time, client of my father's. And this came up in the NAC sale. We bought it for the client for 120,000 Swiss francs. 4 years later, it sold. Barry Fairstein sold his collection through NAC. Again, 4 years later, it brought 230,000 Swiss francs. Right.
Okay.
So it already doubled in just 4 years. And this is during the 2008 recession. So,
well, this coin, has a hole clearly, and it has a relatively large gouge in the reverse. And yet the artwork is still really unaffected. And it's well set. I mean, it just doesn't bother me. None of that bothers me on this coin.
There's only 3 of these in existence. There's the one that sold for $4 million that I showed at the beginning. There's one in the British Museum that'll never come to market. And there's this coin. So if you want a gold Eid Mar,
with hole
this
or
is
without,
probably your only opportunity. And what was really interesting about this one in particular is the gentleman who bought it in 2008. He put it on display. Actually, he might have bought it after 2008. I don't remember. Maybe it was after this. But he put it on display at the British Museum. So this coin was on display at the British Museum for a decade or more. So I have clients that actually went and visited this particular coin when it was at the British Museum. And now the owner of the coin took it off display. It was just on temporary loan. And it's coming up for auction the end of this May in NAC. It'll either be on May 30th or 31st. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to bring anywhere between $2 and $3 million.
Wow. It's a really easy coin to track.
2 million. I think it's going to bring more. I think it's going to bring 3 million. I could be wrong, but if the perfect one is worth 4.2 million, is this worth half? And this one has a pedigree with being on display at the British Museum. The one that brought 4.2 million, some doubt the pedigree, some don't doubt the pedigree. It could be a problem down the road. This coin has come up on the market many times. It's never been a problem, for Italy or Greece to come out and say, we want this coin,
Personally, I think that this coin will set its own market, and whatever it determines the market to be will affect the perfect coin.
Yeah, when it comes up for market again. I mean, here's the thing is that this coin, the owner was super smart because he took a coin that nobody could really acquire, because before the one that brought 4.2 million that just came out in 2020, this was the only other gold Eid Mar on the entire market that could be bought. So he basically took it and he gave it an extra decade or more sitting at the British Museum. Super smart.
Sure.
Super smart. So that'll be really exciting. So we'll probably preview this coin in an upcoming show, because the catalog isn't out yet for NEC, but it's going to be a hell of a catalog. That's all I have to say. So going on to the last one, I brought this one up just because we actually just bought this.
Yes.
And so
I have a picture of it in my phone.
Yeah. Now, it's not a pretty one. It's ugly. And if you look, it's got holes all over it. But if you look, it was in a bracelet, and it's still in the bracelet. And these are all coins that were found with it in Joppa in the Middle East. And it actually has a pedigree going all the way back. You'll see that the Royal Numismatic Society wrote about this in 1955. So the fact that a lot of Eid Mars don't necessarily have pedigrees. Now, the Hunt specimen had the pedigree, which adds a lot of value. But a lot of the Eid Mars don't have pedigrees before 1970. So the fact that, this bracelet, this coin, being the coin that it is, very iconic. These coins were all found together. They wrote about it in 1955, and then it was published again in the Spring Circular in 1982 with photos. So, and it was actually a grandmother of somebody in the UK who traveled around. There's a whole story about it in the Spring Circular, and she bought this on her journey. They put it together in the 19th century. So these coins weren't, necessarily looked highly upon. And so the bracelet itself is not ancient. It's done in the 19th century. But these coins were all found together. So I guess it's a travesty that in the 19th century, they drilled the coins and put them into a bracelet, but it's pretty cool.
Well, once it's done, and there's nothing you can do about it. So at this point, let's just enjoy it. And it's not the only rare coin on this bracelet. What's that? And it's not the only rare coin on this bracelet.
No, there's another very rare coin on here as well.
Yeah. So you have, here's the obverse, and then here's the reverse of the Eid Mar.
Right. Yep. And it's got a pre-1970 pedigree. So I saw this in a auction in the UK. It was somebody who doesn't necessarily always sell ancients. It was more of a world sale, and they had 20 lots of ancients in the whole sale. We were going to go a lot higher than what we got it for. We got it for a very reasonable price. And you'll see this on the cover of our next buyer bid sale sometime in probably end of May, beginning of June, something like that.
And I think also interesting to note is the letter that is published in this picture that is from the Royal Numismatic Society, Department of Humanity.
So yeah, I think I've handled, and my dad and I have handled, let's see, probably 6 or 7 of these silver Eid Mars, something like that, and then a bunch of 4As. And I was the underbidder on the 4.2 million gold one. I didn't get it. That's okay. I got to be part of history, so that was fun. But this show isn't about me. This is about the coins. So
that's right.
Sometimes it's exciting just to be part of certain things, but it's not necessarily why we do this show. So anyway, that's it's a very iconic coin. Yes, most of us cannot afford it, but doesn't mean we can't talk about it. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. I bought an Eid Mar for a client about 4 years ago at the New York International in a CNG sale. I put it out in my case, and every person who wanted to come up to hold it, I let them hold it because I thought that would be an experience that they'd never have.
You know what else is good about that, though, is that will create a buzz around the coin. You get them talking about, wow, you know what I handled today? So that's always a good thing.
Well, and I still hear today, if I post a picture, somebody will say, Aaron, let me hold that coin. And I'll never forget it. And, I mean, most of us don't get, like if I represent a client in auction, it's usually when it's a high-end coin like that, it's not something that I'm necessarily going to buy for stock. So the only reason I was able to buy it is with somebody else's money.
Sure.
So the fact that it's really a treat and an honor to be able to hold something that somebody trusted me to go buy for them. And so I treated it as such, and then they're all learning experience as well.
And then you get to fanboy on it because you do just like all the rest of us. That's the part that I don't think people realize is it's like even the guys that deal in this stuff every day, there are still certain things that you look at and you're like, wow, that is cool.
People ask me, they say, what's your favorite coin? And I don't think I have a favorite coin. I think I have, there's a specific aesthetics or historic value that makes me go, wow. And so when that happens, then it doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, I do like the Eid Mar. I love the Eid Mar. Yes. I also love Syracuse decadrams. I just can't get enough of them.
Yes.
I love them.
But you also like pages from the Gutenberg Bible. You also like, I mean, there's lots of things that appeal to you. I've seen many of them.
Well, I'm very fortunate to have clients that allow me to buy things for them. Sure. And I like sharing them when I have the opportunity, because I think that if I just held it for myself and didn't let somebody else, like my colleagues at work, or I'm at a show and I say, hey, check this out, hold it. And it's somebody who just buys out of the junk bowl, but I let them hold it for a second. It's a coin they'd never be able to hold in their entire life. And that's going to change their outlook on specific coins, and give them excitement that they probably would have never had if I didn't do that. So it excites me just as like it excites them.
There are going to be things that are clearly out of reach for most people. And the fact that, this business is one where I can walk up to a table at the World's Fair money and I can handle $2 and $3 million coins. And it's just, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Can I afford them?
Right.
Hell no. But, I mean, at the same time, it's cool to see them, and it's neat that I can, and that does affect you. You take that forward.
It does.
This kind of feeds into our pearl of wisdom for this evening, which is that,
yes. Go ahead, Mike.
That it takes time for your eye to develop. So while you're like me and you're learning, there are certain things that you will see, but you should still kind of trust an expert to help teach you, to help guide you in what it is. I know a lot about coins in general, but very little about ancients, and you see it in some of the comments that I make on these. It's like, well, is this and this? So there's a lot to get your head around.
Well, what's funny is that when somebody starts working with me, buying coins out of auctions, and they start giving me suggestions on I like this coin, should I bid on it? And I look at the coin, I'll be like, no, it's a piece of crap. Don't buy that. And then, eventually they'll say, what do you think of this coin? I'm like, yeah, that's a tremendous coin. And the first thing they say to me is like, see, I'm learning.
Yeah. No, but that's true. I mean, and that is very common, because I've said it a couple of times. See, I'm learning. Yeah.
It's, look, I've had, and I've talked about it in the show before. I've had people, if there's coins in our catalog or in our inventory and they just buy it and they don't ask my opinion, okay, fine, buy it, whatever. If they ask my opinion, I'll tell them, hey, it's a piece of crap. Don't buy it.
But it's in your catalog.
Or it's like, if you want me to work with you, I'll work with you. But
sure.
I'm not going to just have you buy a coin to buy a coin. It doesn't mean that the coin's overpriced. It just means that if you're going for quality, and you have the means, then there's no reason why you can't wait a little bit longer to get that perfect coin.
Right. There may be a better coin for you.
Right. Now, look, if you don't have a lot of money, that coin, which, okay, I say it's a piece of crap, but but for somebody that's a joy, it's a love, right? Mm-hmm. And if somebody says to me, it's like when somebody says to me, they go to our junk bowl at a show and they say, which one would you take? And I'm like, it's not fair for you to ask me that, because I wouldn't take anything out of here. But for your money, this is the best coin.
Sure.
That's a different question.
Right.
That's a totally different question. So anyway,
yeah.
So I guess, again, don't trust your eye. And it's kind of why I pointed out the first show we talked about sculpture. I think I have a big advantage over a lot of other coin dealers, is because I first learned antiquities. And so when you learn antiquities, you really learn aesthetics and eye appeal. And so, because in antiquity, you have to look at it every day. It's not like an ancient coin where you could just put it in your safe deposit box and never see it again until you take it out again. If an antiquity, you look at it every day. So I don't buy antiquities that are pieces of garbage, because nobody's going to want them, And so I think that helped me develop my eye for aesthetics, which then helped me with coins tremendously.
Yeah,
That's why aesthetics, I said, go to a museum, look,
right.
See what's beautiful, develop your eye.
Yeah, aesthetics is something that is it's not just different to everybody. There is actually a pattern to it, and there's some things to learn.
Right, exactly. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today, Mike.
Oh, cool. Well, you know what? I guess then we will thank everybody who helped inspire us. Anybody who helped contribute to the podcast. Cheers to you. And thanks to everybody who listened. We really do appreciate it, and it helps make this a lot more fun. Let's see. So, do you have anything else for us tonight, Aaron?
Thanks, guys.
All right. From the Ancient Coin Podcast, I'm Mike, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the ancient coin market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things in order to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.